Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I am Mr. Kadim Khan and I am a lecturer in the Institute of Computing, Quart University of Science and Technology. Today we will take lecture number 19 of the subject of Object-Oriented Analysis and Design, in which we will discuss the strings and abstracts windowing toolkit components in Java. And this is the second lecture of the graphical user interface, in which we will cover JButtons, JText build and JText area controls. Dear students, this is another lecture of the graphical user interface. We have already covered JButtons, but because this control is vastly used, so that's why we want to cover this control again with the different examples here. And also we will cover the JText builds and JText areas. JText fields and JText areas are two input controls because they takes input from the users and also they create the output as well. So these are two very much important controls. Similarly, JButtons provides the clickable events to the user. So when a user clicks with the mouse to the certain buttons, then certain operations are performed here. This is the discussion agenda which we will cover in this lecture. So here first we will cover the JButtons controls in Java. Then we have a programming examples of Java of JButtons controls. Then we have JText builds controls. Then we have the Java programming example of the JText builds. So you will be in fact very much interested to learn these controls because they provide some input and output functions. Similarly, JText area provides multi-lines output and input. So JText area is very much important controls. Here we have a practical programming examples of JText area in Java, and at the end we have some book references for you, which is very much useful so that you can study these books for your knowledge. What is the JButton controls? JButton controls is a certain control which is used to create the push buttons controls. The push button control means that it is clickable. The programmer creates the action events, which is a class, and when this event function is clicked, then the body of this event is executed, and actually the button click is called here through the action event, and the operations are performed. Now, in order to handle a button click event, we requires action listener class as well. This is the interface class which must be implemented. So means that when we require the interface class, we use the implement relations, not the extend relations. Now JButtons controls is extended from the JComponents class, and this is the strings controls here, and it is contains in java.strings.statics package, and then we add this control to our container. Look at this output. This is overall container, while container contains the JPanel. So we add different controls inside of the JPanels. Like this is a buttons, click here. Similarly, this is button 3 with label button 3, but this is also a button without the label. We must have to create the button with the labels. So without the label, button is in fact not a good programming practice. Now here we will demonstrate an example of the buttons controls. This example actually shut down the computers with the JButtons. Before explaining this example, I want to show you the output. This is the output when you compile and run the code which are provided in the previous slides. So when you click on this shutdown buttons, then the computer will be shut down. And also we have a label here which help the users about this button. So here over the label it is mentioned that please click this button to shut down your PC. and when you click this button, then the computer will be shut down. Now this is the code for this example. First we have declared different libraries. We have three library or packages. These libraries contain some built-in functions. We will use these classes in our this example. Import java.awt.styles package contains the classes for the JFrame. Similarly, java.awt.event.styles contains the classes for the event creation. For example, button handler events is implemented in awt.event.styles package. Also, we have java x.swings.styles. In this package, the classes of JLabel and similarly JButtons are implemented. Next, we have import java.awt.toolkit package. This package is implementing the runtime.get runtime.execute, that is the exec functions here. So when the button will be clicked, then the system will be shut down. Now then we have created our own class, and this class is the public. The class name is class A, which is inherited from the JFrame, while JFrame is a built-in class which is implemented in java.awt.styles package. Here is the constructor's public class A. Constructor will be called when here the object will be instantiated in the void main function. Now inside of the body of the constructor, we have first created the object of the JPanel. JPanel contain new JPanel. The JPanels contains all those controls which will be placed inside of the window. Then we have in fact the flow layouts here content.set layout new flow layout. So we have defined the flow layout of the JPanels, which means that first control added to this panel will be available on the first left positions, and similarly the second control added inside of the JPanel will be available in the second left position. Then we have JLabel, label 1 new JLabel. Here we have defined the label, and inside of the constructor of the label, it takes the parameter of the strings. Please click this button to shut down your PC. So when this label will be in fact added to the panel, it will show this message or this label to the user. Next, also we have the JButtons control objects. So JButtons btn1 is equal to new JButton. Inside of the constructor of the JButton, we have defined a strings shutdowns comma new image icon f colon double slash cross dot gif. Now first parameter shows the label over the button, and the second parameter provides the image over the buttons. So first this will be shown, then this image will be shown here, but this image will be shown in the left position while this text will be shown in the right position over the JIT button. And this image, which is cross.diff image, it is in the F directory of the computer. You can also specify your own directory if you want to create this folder inside of your projects. Then you have to remove this directory name here, F colon double slash will be removed here. Now we have added first this label inside of the content, which is the JPanel, and also we have added this button inside of the content, which is in fact button 1, and we have also added the panel inside of the content pane. So content pane is the main window, which is in fact contains the panel here. Next, we have defined the title of the window. Here the title is button demo. So this dot set title defines the title, and this is the the pointer object, and this in fact refers to the current class objects, while the current class is here class A. Next is the set default close operation JFrame exit on close. This is a function which will be called when the cross buttons is clicked, and it defines the size of the window and make it visible. Next is button handler. Handler is equal to new button handler. This is the handler button handler of class, and here we have defined its objects handler 1. Now this class will be in fact defined later, and it is defined here, but here we have just declared the object of the button handler. Now we have associated this EU handler with the button 1. So button 1 dot add action listener handler 1. So we have associated it with the button 1. Now here we are defining the button handler event. So for this purpose we will define this class here. So private class button handler implements action listener. Here action listener is the interface class. For public void action perform action event E, here we have defined action perform functions, and it is the void function having the void data type, but it is the public, means that it is accessible anywhere. Now if e.getAction command double equal to shutdowns, that means that here if the label of this button is shutdowns, then try catch statement is used here. So because if there runtime exception occurs, then the try catch statement will resolve that exception. So runtime.get, runtime.execute, shutdown.exe, dash s space dash t space 0. Here this function, which is execute function of the get runtime function and runtime class, this execute function will call the shutdown.exe of the system32 files, and it also passes three different parameters: dash s for the shutdown, dash t for the time, and 0 for the immediate. So it will shut down the system immediately. So this line will shut down the computer immediately. If you provide some times here, then it will shut down the computer after the number of seconds that you have provided here. And if there are any problems occur in this code, then the computer will throw the exceptions. And here is the public static void main function. Inside of the body of the void main function, we have instantiated the object of class A. When the object is instantiated through the constructor, then the constructor will be called, and inside of the constructor, all this code will be executed. So after compiling this program, you will get this output. So when you will click on this button, then the computer will be shut down here. The next important controls used for graphical user interface creation is the Java text fields, that is called JText fields. As its name indicates, it takes the text from the user and also it displays the text. JText fields take the text from the user using a single line input through the keyboard. So you can type here any single line of input. Also it is used to display the single line of output. So it can display the multi-line output, but it can be editable. Means that when you have some input and later on you want to change that input, then you can edit that input. Well, if you have disabled this JText fields, then later on you cannot, you in fact cannot provide any sort of input. It will be just used for displaying the output. This is the constructor of JText fields. First of all, we will declare the class name. JText field is the class name and it is implemented inside of the javax.strings.starx package. Then we will here declare any valid objects. Txt field is equal to new JText fields, and here we will define the size of the JText field. Size of the text fields is provided into integer values, that is int length. For example, if we want to type here 10 digits, then we will provide here 10. So 10 will be the size of the input. We can provide you any input, but this is the visible size over the screens in the GUI of the Java. This is the examples here. It has a large amount of code, but it takes two inputs from the user and then just displays the sum of the two inputs. So how is the program here? First, we have declared all the packages that are the libraries. So util package is a library which is used for parsing. That means to convert one data type to another. Also, we have Java.AWT, that is in fact abstract windowing toolkit library. This library contains frame 1. This is the in fact class, and it is extended from the JFrame. So JFrame is in fact implemented inside of the java.awt.styles. Then we have the event library, which is responsible for creating the event, and also we have the swings.static library, which is useful for declaring all these classes. So without these libraries, these creation or instantiation of the objects of these built-in classes will generate the errors. Next, we have public class frameworks extend JFrames. Frame 1 is a class which is a public class, and it is inherited from the JFrame. Now here we have just first declares the different GUI components. For example, JLabel label 1, JLabel label 2, similarly JText field input 1 and JText field input 2, JText field another in JText field output. So first two are used for the inputs and the next one will display the output. Here we have JButton BTN1 and JLabel label 3. Also we have another JButton BTN. So we have two buttons, one labels, three JText fields and two other labels as well. Next we have the constructor of the class, that is frame 1. Inside of the constructor we have first declares the container get content pin. So here the container is declared by using the get content pin, so it will allocate the memory to the container. Now container layout is null. By null means we will specify the position of the components by using x1, y1, x2, y2 components, that is point 1 and point 2 components. Now first we have defined here the label 1, which was just declared here. So label 1 is equal to new JLabel, enter first value, and this label is displayed here on the screen by using 5,5.1 and 100,100.2. So for example, if first point is from this position, I will show you in the output. For example, 5.5 is here, so next will be here. The second point here in the code, which is in fact 100,100, its position is here. So starting from this position to this position, this label will be displayed. So its starting position is 5,5 and ending position here is, for example, 100,100. Now then we have added this label 1 inside of the containers. Again we have declares label 2 and its text is enter second value and its position over the window is 5,30 and 200,100. So this is first point and this is second point, and this is also added to the container. Another input 1, which is the JText fields. Here it is the input 1 JText fields and its size is 10 characters. So you can type more than 10, but 10 characters will be visible to you on the runtime. Then input 1.set bounds first point and second points, and these points are now, in fact, this control is added to the container here. Similarly, input 2 and its positions, and this is also added inside of the container. Now again we have JText fields which has 10 size and which position is 130, 95 and 100, 20. So these are 2 points which specify its positions here. And next we have also added this JText field inside of the container. Now we have defined the third labels. Label 3 is equal to new J label, and its captions is sum equal. So that is in fact a label text, and its position is 5, 95 and 100, 20. So it is 5, 95 and 100, 20. It is this starting point is here and ending point is here. So it is also added to the panel here are inside of the containers. Next we have defined the go buttons. Go button position is this, which is 50, 20 and 5, 30. So these are 2 points which define the position of the go button over the screen. And then we have added these buttons inside of the container. Then we have defined the size, which is 300, 200, 300 from x-axis and 200 over the y-axis. If you want to make its size equal, for example 300, 300, so it will be exactly like the square. And now its set visible is true, means that it is available on the screens and it is visible to the user. Now here we have defined the action listener event. So we have associated this event of go button, which is the BTN objects, and here public void action performed action event E is a function which will be called when this button will be clicked, and the body of the functions first of all contains the parsing. So it takes input from the input one text fields, and then it typecasts that input because by default that is the strings. So using the get text, it takes the input of strings and typecast it into integer, and then it is assigned to the A, which is integer value A. Also, we have integer.parseInt input2.get text. It is also typecasted and it is assigned to the B, which is integer variable. Now both integers are added together and assigned to C. Now here we have string as strings.value of C, which means that C must be typecast to strings here and assigned to S, because this the output text field will takes the strings for the displaying. So that's why it is typecasted to the strings. Output.setText as it is in fact used to define the values to the output text fields because it sets the output. That means text fields value is taken inside of the self text function. Now here our event is completed. Now we have a public stated void main function, which is a function which must be in every Java programs and the computer start execution from the void main. In the void main function, first we have declared the objects of the frame1 application is equal to new frame1. It is the object application.set default close operation jframe.exit on close. So when this close button will be clicked, then this lines closes the whole window. So application.set default close operation is in effect a function which is called when this cross button is clicked here. So here in the parameter jframe.exit on close is a parameter that we have provided here. Now when you will run this program, then you will see that you will be asked to type the first input, and here you will type the second input. And when you will click on these buttons, then these two inputs will be added together. So this is the output. It is your responsibility to run this program in the any Java IDE. Here I have demonstrated already in the previous lectures. I have demonstrated an example in the Eclipse IDE. But we will implement the next examples in the Eclipse IDE. The next important controls used for the graphical user interface in Java is JText area. This also is used to take the inputs and also it displays the output. But as its name indicates, it displays the output for the larger areas. It takes the larger text from the user. And the text will be in the form of multi-lines input or in the form of multi-line output. So JText area is used to get multi-lines input from the user, such as some files in the strings or some text. It is used to display multiple or multi-line outputs, such as open the contents of the files. You can see that the contents of the files are opened here. And it also contains some scroll bars, horizontal scroll bars and vertical scroll bars. This is horizontal and this one is vertical if the number of lines are larger than the visible area of the JText area, then these scroll bars will be displayed. Now we have JText area, new JText area. This is the objects, JText area object, new JText area. Here we will provide two values in the form of integer, int rows, comma, int column. So this will displays these two parameters values for their uh, visible area. For example, int rows, int columns, if we provide, for example, 10 comma 5. So 10 characters from left to right and 5 characters from top to bottoms. So this will be the size of the JText area over this window. Now also if we want to specify the strings here, so JText area new JText area string text. So here it will just takes the strings here. If you want to assign runtime strings to the JText area, then you will use this declaration of the object of the JText area. Next we have, for example, these are the examples here, 20, 50, and this is the text in the JText area. So this will define the number of rows and columns of the characters inside of the JText area, and this define the text inside of the JText area. This is the programs that we will demonstrate here. But first of all, here we will in fact demonstrate the output. The output is this one, that first if you type some sentence here, for example this is a sentence of 7 words, and you press enter on your keyboard, then it will display the information that number of words are 7 and the words are these words. So all these words will be split here. So this is a sentence of 7 words, and you can see here if you type some larger sentence, then it will display number of words are 12 and the words are these, and then scroll bars will appear here automatically. So here we have first declared some libraries. The libraries are in fact import java.util.statics library. This library implements the string tokenizer class, that is string tokenizer, used to convert the strings into words, also called the tokens. And then we have java.AWT.styles, that is the abstracts windowing toolkit library. And this library defines the JFrames class. Also we have AWT.event library, that is the abstracts windowing toolkit libraries for the events. So this libraries define the events programming, and the event programming is the add action listeners here. Next is the .swings.statics library of the JavaX class. This library contains these different controls used for the GUI. Here we have declared the class frame1, which is a public class extended from the JFrame. Then we have a label LBL. We have also a text fields, input fields, and JText area, output area. Here is the constructors. Constructor contains the containers. Here we have defined the containers, and containers memory is obtained from the get content pane. And its layout is the new flow layout. So means that when we will add first controls in this container, then it will be added from the left sides towards the right sides. And then we have defined here the label that type a sentence and press enter. So it will point out a user to type any sentence from the keyboard and also press enter when the typing is finished. Here label is added to the containers. Again we have defined the JText fields. JText fields in fact contains 20. So this will take the input sentence of the 20 size characters, but you can type more than 20, but at runtime it will show the 20 characters only. Then input field dot add action listener, new action listener, it will implement the add action listeners. In fact here public void action perform action events. So this will implement the action events, means that clickable action events, and this clickable action event is in fact associated with the input field, which is the JText fields here. Now string tokenizer is a class and its object is tokens. So it converts the string into token. New string tokenized event at get action command. So all the strings will be in fact tokenized here. And output area dot set text when after tokenizing or after breaking the sentence into words. Then the number of words will be displayed by the set text function of the output area. So number of words plus tokens dot count tokens, it will count the number of words or it will return the integers. The words are is a static sentence, while all these values will be displayed by using the while loop. While token has more tokens, so if there are number of tokens or words, so all these will be displayed here. Output area dot append tokens dot next tokens slash n. So here all the tokens will be appended with the output area. So initially output area contains all this static information, then the number of tokens will be appended with the output area. And then input field is also added to the containers, and similarly we will define the output area size 10, 20. So 10 x-axis characters and 10 y-axis characters will be displayed here. And output area dot set is editable false, means that you cannot type inside of the out area because it is not non-editable. Container dot add new J scroll pens output area. So containers will add the J scroll pens, means that the scroll pens will be added when the size increases from this size of the J text area. Set size true 75, 20. It is the window size. Set visible true. It will show the window true. Public stated void main function is a function which is implemented in every Java program, and computer start execution from the body of the void main function. First of all, we have declared the object of frame 1 application new frame 1. It is the object of frame 1, and when you will close or click on the cross buttons of the window, then the system will be exited or it will be closed. This is the output here. You can see its output. Now, dear students, we will implement this output in the Eclipse. So, for this purpose, first of all, I need to exit the slides. I have exit the slides. Now, I will start my Eclipse IDE. This is the Eclipse IDE, which is 2020 Eclipse IDE. Meanwhile, the Eclipse IDE will be available for me. You can also create the new project inside of the Eclipse IDE, and you can use the existing projects to run this example. So meanwhile, the Eclipse IDE will be ready for us here. Now this is the Eclipse IDE, which has provided the pre-example also, which we have done in the previous lecture. Now go to your slides. This was the slides. First, you need to copy this part of the program. Remember that you have to completely and carefully copy these statements. If you are missing any one statement, it will generate the errors. So first part has been transferred here. Again, click here and transfer also this part of the code into Eclipse IDE. So here I have now transferred all the code. Now remember that our class name is class 1, but here for this example our class name is frame 1. So you need to change it from frame 1 to class 1 because it has errors there. Similarly, I will change the constructor name as well to class 1. Also, I will change the object names here. So object name is frame 1, so I will type class 1. Similarly, also change its constructor name. Now changes are completed. You will see there are no errors. This is just an information message. It is not the error. To run the application, click here on these green buttons so that you will see the output. Now I click on the execution buttons. You can see this is the output here. Okay, so if I type some sentence here and press enter key, then this sentence will be in fact uh, converted into number of tokens. For example, I type here that Fahad University of Science and Technology and press enter. When you press enter, you can see that there are number of words are 6 and the numbers of the words are KUST University of Science and Technology. And similarly, if I type some more text, for example, KUST University of Science and Technology, now that is APK Pakistan. So it in fact counts the spaces here and press enter. Now you can see that there are two sliders which are in fact scroll bars, and these scroll bars are appeared because the size of this text has been increased than the size of the JText area. So this was the example of how to use the JText area. Now we will resume our slides. So here I will resume the slides here. There is another example of the JText area. So first of all, I will show you the output. The output is this one, that when you type some text or some text is displayed here in this JText area, and you select particular text and click on this copy button, then this text will be transferred here. Now this is the code here. The code contains first of all different libraries, and then we have defined different components of the GUI here. Now here we have defined the box b box.create horizontal box. It creates the horizontal box. Inside of the box we will in fact place these controls. Box is exactly like the jpanels and it contains different controls. Then we have the strings. For example, this is the demo strings to/n for the new line plus illustrates copying test /n for the new line and so on. This is the text here. Now again we have the JText area which we have just declared here, but now here we have defined this object T1 new JText area. S is the strings, it will text, and 10,15 will be the size of the strings which will be available on runtime. B.add new scroll pans T1, so new scroll pans will be added with the text area 1, and similarly we have copy buttons, then copy button is added here. Also we have another JText area 10,15, and this JText area is set as editable false, meaning that you cannot type inside of this JText area, and this is also added to the scroll pans. So scroll pan is added for the T1 text area and it is in fact added to the B. Now we have container C get content pin which defines the windows of the application. C.add B means that this box is added to the container. So here inside, despite of the panels, that is J panels, we are using just box here. Now set with size for 25,200. This is defined the size of the window by using x-axis and y-axis pixels, and it is shown here. Now copy.add action listeners, it is in fact buttons which implements the add action listeners. When we will click on these buttons, then this operation will be performed, and this operation is t2.set text, t1.get selected text. So it will get selected text, and that selected text will be assigned to the second text area. Means that it will be displayed inside of this second text area. Here is the public static void main function. It is a function which must be in every Java program, and Java starts the execution from the public static void main. And inside of the public static void main, we have declares the objects frame1 apps is equal to new frame1. So when this object is in fact defined, and then its constructor is also defined, this is the constructor, then here this constructor will be called, which contains full definition of the GUI and also the event which contains copying a text from one JText area to the second text area. This is the output. So dear student, you should run this program through yourself so that you will get practice. Also you need to perform some more practice over this example. So this is the end of the lectures. These are two very much important and easy books for you. First book is Think Java, How to Think Like a Computer Scientist by Alan Downey and Chris. This is very useful books and contains lot amount of the examples. So you should study this book and do some practice. The another book is Java Programming Basic for Absolute Beginners by the Nathan Clark. This is also a very good book. And if you still have any question, you can ask through the email. My email is m.kadim@kust.edu.bk. I will wait for your question and will respond soon as I get them. Thank you very much.